Season 52, War number 1, and we're up against X+K9, and this time my team will be America Chavez, Shuri, and Mantis. I will be taking Path 8 in Section 1, Path 5 in Section 2, a Void, Weapon X and Onslaught miniboss, as well as that Photon boss there using Mantis. Now, first impressions of this war meta. Not a big fan. The tactic pool kinda sucks for attackers. And having so many bans in tier 1, it's not a whole lot of fun, if I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, first off here we have a Maestro on the first fight on Path 8, I don't remember the notes. But I'm taking the fight with America Chavez, usually, as I have mentioned previously. This Path 8 is essentially just a diversity placement spot. The nodes don't do too much, and at the end of the day this is basically just a normal Maestro with an extra buff whenever I knock them down. The extra buff is just gonna feed me some more damage due to America Chavez's kit, but even that isn't really needed. Maestro has plenty of buffs in his own right, and well, a single specialty with that kind of crit RNG and the fight is done. Very simple, basically a BG fight, if even that, and we are on to the first tactic fight of this season. A Kushala on the Snowballing Fury and Personal Space Fury nodes, and I will be taking the fight with Shuri. Now, Shuri as a tactic champion, not the best, because you need to be inflicting debuffs to be able to inflict the passive heal block, and if you go for Shuri Special 1, you're not gonna be inflicting any debuffs, since you will be doing crit shock passives instead. And that just basically means that any fight you're gonna be taking with Shuri, if you're planning on using the tactic at all, it's gonna be slow. Painfully slow. Unless you're doing some risky business, which, well, we'll see some of that soon enough. Now, Kushala, as far as tactical defenders goes, isn't really too difficult. I did mess up the special there, which is a skill issue, but other than that, her defensive kit isn't really all that expansive. I'm sure she has the power gain whenever the other champion gains a buff, but Shuri doesn't gain any, so there's nothing to worry about in that regard. The node here also lowers the attacker's defense ability accuracy for each buff on the defender, but since Shuri is unaffected by AAR, it's not a problem and my parries will land just fine. Now, it's already been a minute and a half into the fight, and this Kushala is only just now below 50%. So, when I said it's gonna be slow, I mean it. These fights are not great. Now, one thing you could do with tactic attackers, or at least most of them, is use the Resonate Mastery to be able to inflict more debuffs for basic attacks, but the issue with that is, which I actually didn't even know before this war, is that the Mastery doesn't work on non-contact hits or energy-based hits. So basically, the Mastery does nothing for Shuri. And I had kinda counted on the Mastery working for one of the later matchups this war, so I'm sure that was gonna go just fantastic. Also, I'm gonna run into a really nice bug with the Weapon X miniboss in just a moment, but yeah, overall I'm just I'm not having a good time with this meta so far. Now, this fight is a Gladiator on the Ebb and Flow Intercept and Sadist nodes, and I'm taking the fight with Chavez. And Chavez, since she doesn't have any way to deal with the Unstoppable here, this is gonna be a bit of a slower fight. I'm doing what I can to speed it up by landing intercepts here and there, but overall, since I'm mainly baiting special ones, it's gonna be a lot of waiting around for the Unstoppable. Now, looking back, I probably should have just baited special 2s instead to keep a flow in the fight. Texting the special 2 isn't too difficult, and if I happen to block a hit or two I would get incinerated, but I don't think a few incinerates from Gladiator would do too much damage, and I would be able to just, well, deal with it. It also doesn't help that my crit RNG is absolutely horrible with my special 2s here, but after the Maestro fight I can't really expect too much, really. I spent all my crit luck on that one fight. Now as far as the difficulty on this fight goes, it's none. The special 2, or rather the special 1, is extremely easy to avoid simply by, well, getting away from the opponent, and then you just wait around for a bit for the unstoppable buff to fall off. That's all there really is to it. You don't have to worry about intercepting or any of that if you don't want to. It's just to speed things up a little bit, and that's about all there is to it. Still though, the fight did take some time, and well, the Maestro fight is essentially the fastest fight I have this war, and even that wasn't that fast, I guess. Now here we have the Destroyer on the Event Flow Intercept and Mighty Judge nodes, which is a placement every alliance will probably see every single war, with some annoying science bans to make it more difficult. And well, as I said, I didn't get to test the tactic during the off-season, so I'm just going by what should work on paper. And this matchup should be doable, and that's the mindset I went into. So, there are so many things I need to juggle here. Number 1 is the tactic. I need to keep the passive heal block up at essentially all times to keep the power gain in check as well as the miss. And on top of that, there's also the damage that I gotta worry about with the Event Flow Intercept node reducing my damage by, I believe, 60% throughout the fight if I don't land intercepts, which you also can't normally do against Destroyer due to Unstoppable. So to combat that, I will use the miss mechanic or the untouchable on Shuri's heavy charge to land it sometimes when possible. Now, juggling Destroyer specials, the defense tactic, my damage and fighting against the clock, as well as just trying to keep up your own charge, just keep the shocks topped up, all of that, just a mess of a fight. And it's a minute and a half into the fight, I'm not anywhere near done. I'm on the way to a timeout here, as you can probably see. And knowing this and seeing it in the fight, I decided to switch up my plan a little bit, and I gotta start doing some riskier stuff to essentially get this fight down quicker. Otherwise I'm just gonna drop a death due to timing out, and we can't have that. So, special 1s it is, getting those guaranteed crits, using the heavy attack for another intercept remote protection, and that was a nice chunk of damage I managed to do in that one Event Flow window. And well, if I can just repeat that twice more, the fight should be done. But there is the defense tactic to worry about, and juggling the heal block, it's annoying to say the least. And yeah, I'm definitely not taking this fight ever again. I refuse. The matchup sucks, the tactic sucks, Shuri for the tactic sucks as an attacker, surprisingly enough, and overall there are better options even with the bans, but none are great. I believe the wars coming after this we are using Captain America Infinity War if the bans allow it. And even he needs some synergies or at least team slots to make that happen. It's just, I don't know, I'm not a fan. I've said it a few times already in this video, and I'll keep saying it. This tactic, I'm very close to just taking the season off, to be honest. But for now, I'll keep on going to see if it gets any better as time goes on. I'm hoping it does, because I like playing war, but man, the tactic pool could use some additions. Next season's gonna be even worse, with 2 relevant blacklists as well as the 5 bans on top of that. Yeah, it's gonna suck. But anyways, this fight is almost 4 minutes in. I'm finally getting some some of the final hits in here to try to close out the fight. One more special one for some guaranteed crits, get the protection off, and that should do it. And yeah, sure, it worked on paper, and I won't die to this fight, but it's not great. No war fight should take over 4 minutes. If it does, you're doing something wrong, or it's a horrible assignment. I don't know which one this is, or both, but at the end of the day I didn't die, so I'm happy enough about that. Now the fight took so long that I forgot what I'm taking next, so I had to check the map a little bit, heal up Shuri for an upcoming mini-boss fight with her, but before that I do have a void here to deal with. The matchup is a void on the power snack and 1 too many hits mini-boss node, and I will be taking the fight with Mantis. Now this matchup isn't ideal either, surprisingly enough, but Mantis works just fine if you play it right. So essentially what I gotta do here is keep the passive tranquilize up at all times, if possible, to prevent any of the power sting debuffs, as well as Void's personal debuffs from landing on me. Then, other than that, well, just hit the opponent until they drop, and that's about it. The power snack is still annoying, but as long as I trigger it on purpose whenever the tranquilize is up, him going over a bar of power should not inflict that power sting debuff. Now I mismanaged it a little bit there, and I did get one of the power stings on me, but the damage wasn't too bad, and seeing that, all the nervousness I had about this fight just went away. I can afford some mistakes here so long as I don't start getting comboed or eating some specials, so as long as I can just play somewhat well, this fight will also be a solo. Now, champion like Jill would be a lot better for this, and there are other great skill options too, but since I needed a Mantis for the boss, that's what we assigned here. Now there, I'm not sure why I didn't do a better heavy charge. I think I was trying to avoid getting the intimidating presence debuff on me by just getting it out early, so I could reapply the tranquilize, but if I just charged up the heavy like normal, the fight would have been over anyways, so that was... not sure where that was, honestly. Now, next up we have a Weapon X on the Hazard Shift, Incinerate and Shock node, along with Aggression Prowess and Insult to Injury, and I will be taking this fight with Shuri. Now Weapon X is a tactic defender, but that's not the main issue here. There are a few actually, but first off, there is a neat little bug with Weapon X that has come back. It was fixed at some point a long time ago, but now it's back, and now I gotta pay the price for not knowing about it beforehand. Essentially, the way Weapon X's rage charges should work is that whenever one of his personal abilities fails to trigger, he gains a rage charge. I say personal abilities because masteries or nodes should not count for it, but currently they do. So whenever the Hazard Shift node fails to trigger a debuff on me, he gets a charge for that, and that just meant I had no way, absolutely no way to manage the fight, on top of, well, everything else. So I just got completely nuked immediately off the bat, and honestly, Shuri as a counter for that matchup, horrible idea, especially considering I couldn't use the Resonate Mastery, but regardless, that would have been a death anyways, even if I could use the mastery. So I did report the bug, hopefully it gets fixed soon, but fighting those in war, not a fun time. If it's a bug that actually hurts the player, I tend to find those that actually help me, but this time didn't get so lucky. Then next up we have an Onslaught here on the power one, no, Conflictor and Computational Prowess mini-boss node, that's the one. And I'm taking the fight with Chavez. Now, my Chavez is a rank 2 7-star, which is not ideal. I am punching up a little bit here, but it's fine. This Onslaught, he honestly does absolutely nothing here. The computational prowess node is just feeding me Mystic Dispersion whenever the prowess buff expires, and that just allows me to spam more special 2s, and that's about it. Since I can safely punish the special 1, there's no need for me to block bait heavies for openings or any of that, so the only real damage I'm taking here is from the neuroshocks here and there, which I could heal back up with those special 2s, though it's not needed since this is the last Chavez fight of the war. I will instead use the orange dimension here, I forgot the name of it, for a bit more damage, for most of the special 2s at least, to get the fight down faster. Not that it really matters, but being faster is not a bad idea by any means. And then we have the final fight of the war, a Photon boss that I will be taking with Mantis, and this is a nothing fight. For whatever reason, in the past we have had plenty of people light Photons, no matter what the node, with Mantis, and I just don't really understand why or how. All you gotta do is just slow your combos down a little bit, so as to keep the Tranquilize up at all times, and then Photon will never be able to trigger the Pure Light form, and there is absolutely nothing she really does at that point. So long as you don't eat combos or specials, you're fine. She does absolutely nothing, and I hope this fight shows it. Now, essentially I'm just doing slow combos to allow myself a frame or two here and there to idle, which then resets the Tranquilize passive on the opponent, and since Photon is a science champion, the Tranquilize is 100% debuff ability accuracy reduction, instead of whatever it would be against any other class. And that means no debuffs, and no debuffs means no ramp up for Photon. Now with that said though, you can't avoid every single debuff in the matchup, since if you're charging your heavy attack, you can't keep Tranquilize up, and then your heavy, when it lands, you will get a Sunder debuff, and that will count for Photon's ramp up. However, the fight should be done long before she reaches 10 of those charges, and if it's not, you can just use the Light Whiff trick to force her into the pure light form. When she doesn't have a special, then you just wait it out, and then you're good to go again for another 10 charges. One more special 2 here, wasn't quite enough, but a striker into a double medium, and there we go. No damage taken, a rank 3 Photon boss, extremely easy with Mantis. As for the results, we did end up winning the war 101 to 11. So, not a great showing by us, though considering how annoying the tactic is, we didn't do too horrible, and our opponents, well, yeah, the score speaks for itself.